All right. So Gavin Newsom picked the replacement for Senator Diane Feinstein, who died last week. And her name is Laphonza Butler. And I'm already losing my mind because every Democratic shill and every blue no matter who and all of the corporate press and everybody on Twitter and everybody on TikTok is like, yes, queen, and not at all paying attention to her record. Like, I've seen already all these news organizations being like, she's so historic, she's so great, she worked as a labor leader. But what they're failing to mention is that she used to be a labor leader, okay? She's not a labor leader anymore. In fact, she worked on behalf of Airbnb and Uber, overseeing their lobbying firms in Washington, in order to ensure that those workers did not get status as employees, okay? How's that for labor? Jacobin is one of the only outlets that I've seen actually like accurately writing about this. That and Lee Fong on his Substack did a pretty good job covering this. So there was basically a New York Times puff piece that just was like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing, labor leader, blah, 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 blah. Okay, a couple things. Number one, she doesn't live in the state. Like, what? She doesn't live in the state. And a bunch of simps have already come out to be like, she did live in the state for 15 years and she owns property there, all popular. She doesn't live there now. Okay, so let's go through some of these mad conflicts of interest. Laphonza Butler, who was just sworn in to fill Dianne Feinstein's Senate seat, originally hailed from the labor movement, but her career has taken a sharp pro corporate turn, including a stint acting on behalf of Uber against gig workers in California. So a lot of people are trying to like herald her as being like, oh, she was such an advocate for workers and labor. Okay, that was earlier in her career, okay? Early in her career, Butler spent 10 years as president of Service Employees International Union, Local 2015, the biggest labor union in California representing home care workers. She played a role in the union's successful campaign to raise the state's minimum wage to $15 an hour and served as president of the SEIU, California State Council. Sounds dope, right? Right? I mean, that sounds really good. Shirley Butler, with her background in labor and reproductive rights organizing, is a win for the left, right? Well, not really. While her history is indeed fairly progressive, in recent years her career has taken a sharp conservative turn, which is sadly the story of so many progressives, okay? Like it happens way too often. And a lot of the times that's because there isn't any money on the left. Like if you want to make money, you got to go to the center or the right. Before becoming president at Emily's List, she was the director of public policy and campaigns at Airbnb, a multi-billion-dollar corporation that has come under increased scrutiny for its role in pushing up rents and fueling the housing shortage. More egregiously, in 2019, she worked as a consultant for SERB strategies and helped Uber to pass Proposition 22 in California. The bill exempts app-based gig companies from classifying their workers as employees. This allows them to bypass essential worker rights like a minimum wage, time and a half for overtime, expense reimbursement, and benefits like unemployment compensation. I mean, what the actual fuck? Uber and other companies, including Lyft, DoorDash, Postmates, and Instacart, dumped $205 million into Yes on Prop 2. It was the most expensive ballot measure in U.S. history. The propaganda campaign, which Butler helped orchestrate, plastered the airwaves in social media with misleading talking points like claiming that Proposition 22 would actually increase workers' rights. This certainly played a role in the measure's passage, as a survey of California voters found that 40% of yes voters thought that they were voting for gig workers to have a living wage. I mean, holy shit, the power of propaganda, though. Okay, so workers misclassified as independent contractors are legally barred from forming or joining a labor union. Okay, so you're not for unions. Okay. Butler's career, with her slow drift from labor leader to corporate advocate, is a perfect metaphor for the Democratic Party's decades long retreat from pro labor policies. In a conscious decision dating back to the 1990s, Democrats have chosen to ditch labor in favor of the rising class of professionals now exemplified by the tech industry. This new brand of Democrats is diligently progressive on cultural issues while fundamentally reactionary on issues of economic equality. In that sense, Butler, whose credentials as a person of color and LGBTQ person are apt to distract from her pro corporate record, is the perfect embodiment of the modern Democratic Party. It is also no surprise that Newsom would make this move either. The California governor, who clearly has presidential ambitions of his own, recently vetoed a bill that would give unemployment pay to workers on strike. Because of course he did. He also vetoed a bill that would have banned self-driving trucks from operating in the state without a safety operator aboard. As a fundamental issue of jobs and safety, the Teamsters Union rallied and lobbied to get it passed. They even led a convoy of truckers to the state capitol in support of the bill. Newsom's veto was just one more sign that when it really matters, the leaders of the state Democratic Party are more beholden to big tech than labor. I mean, this is so crazy. This is a good line at the end. We're presently seeing the two souls of the Democratic Party fighting it out. While scenes like Biden walking the UAW picket line are hopeful, the career of Butler is a sobering reminder that the party's impulses remain largely unchanged. While some of her past is laudable, Butler represents a trajectory the Democratic Party cannot afford to stay on. Yeah, a lot of good points there. So much of that is true. I mean, all of it was true. And, it's so depressing and unfortunate that, there are so many Democrats that are just not interested in that. There are too many Democrats that are not interested in the nuances of these things, that are not interested in the facts and in the record. They're just all about the aesthetics. And it's so maddening. How could you go off and talk about how she is a labor leader without mentioning the incredibly important context that she was doing lobbying on behalf of Airbnb and Uber to help them pass Proposition 22 to literally crush workers? What? What are we doing? What are we doing? I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that there are a lot of Democrats, especially in party leadership, that do not want to go back to representing workers, that do not want to go back to representing lower and working class people. And a lot of the base now are tech people, upper middle class people, suburban white wine moms. And a lot of them do not want to see unions being supported. So it's kind of like this tug of war that it's which one are they going to pick? But don't get it twisted. The conflict of interest is insane. She used to work for his firm, okay? That is crazy. Saying nothing of the fact that she doesn't even live in the state and the fact that she's never held public office before. This is just one more example of not just the problem with the Democratic Party, the problem with the news. The way they choose to and not cover certain things. The way they choose to talk about people or not include certain things about their records. And Gavin Newsom is going to run for president in 2028, 100%. And people need to pay attention to his record because so much of his record is trash. Don't get fooled by his, movie villain, slick back hair, whatever the fuck. Don't be fooled by that. He is such a bad governor, and I'm so not looking forward to all the puff pieces that are going to be written on him when he decides to run. Anyway, that's that story. Let me know if you have anything to add or anything I missed, and see you later.